At 22,000 feet above sea level, inside a volcano that was sleeping for 500 years, they found a girl, 14 years old, perfectly preserved, buried alive, and whoever put her there knew something about how the human body dies that we didn't understand until carbon dating proved it impossible. This is the story of Juanita and what her grave is still telling us. At 22,000 feet above sea level, that's 4 miles straight up into the sky, inside Mount Ampato in Peru, they found her in 1992. Her name is Juanita, or that's what we call her now. She's been there for 500 years, perfectly mummified, frozen solid in ice that doesn't melt because the altitude makes the air so thin that water takes on a different physics entirely. When they brought her down the mountain for the first time in 5 centuries, her body didn't decay in centuries. It started decomposing in hours. That's how cold it was. That's how alive the cold was keeping her. But here's what breaks your mind. The tomb where they found her had no ventilation, no hole in the roof, no chimney, no opening except the entrance. It was sealed, completely sealed. Which means that if Juanita was truly placed there alive, and the evidence says she was, then whoever buried her alive in that tomb knew she would only need to breathe for a very specific amount of time. They knew the math of how long consciousness lasts when the air runs out. They sealed her in the dark at 22,000 feet, where the oxygen levels are half what they are at sea level, and they knew. They calculated, they were precise. Let's talk about what 22,000 feet actually feels like to your body. Sea level is where humans evolved, where our lungs developed the ability to extract oxygen from air. At 22,000 feet, the oxygen pressure is so low that your body can't maintain consciousness the same way. Your blood can't hold as much oxygen. Your brain starts shutting down systems it considers non-essential. Vision narrows, time feels strange, your core temperature drops. And then here's the part that changes everything. Your body enters a state that looks almost like hibernation. Not quite sleep, not quite alive, something in between, a state of profound slowing. The Inca didn't have textbooks, they didn't have instruments, but they had 5,000 years of living at altitude. They knew what altitude did to the human mind, and the evidence suggests they understood something we're only now confirming in modern physiology. At extreme altitude, the human consciousness doesn't fight for survival the way it does at sea level. It surrenders, gently, like falling asleep in winter. The cold, the altitude, the sealed dark, they all work together, not as torture, as ceremony, as a specific, calculated end. Juanita's bones tell the story of someone who was dressed in fine textiles before burial. Her hair was braided with silver. Her teeth were filed in a pattern that showed status, wealth, power. She was not a sacrifice in the way we think of sacrifice, brutal and terrified. She was prepared, honored, given a role that mattered. And the chemical analysis of her bones shows traces of a drink made from the coca plant, something that would have calmed her, reduced her fear response, prepared her mind for the journey up the mountain and into the dark. The Inca weren't forgetting ventilation. They were engineering a specific kind of death, one that was, by their understanding, compassionate. But here's where it gets stranger. When Juanita's body was brought to modern laboratories, her blood chemistry was analyzed, and they found something that shouldn't have been possible. Her last meal was inside her stomach, completely undigested, exactly as it was the moment she swallowed it. No decomposition, no bacterial action, nothing. Which means that when she was sealed in that tomb, her body temperature dropped so rapidly, so completely, that it essentially became a time capsule. She stopped aging the moment the ice took her. And in that preserved stomach they found the meal the Inca had given her before the climb, potato and maize and meat from a llama. The last food she ever tasted, frozen in time, waiting 500 years to be found, to be witnessed, to tell us that someone loved her enough to give her one more meal before the ceremony began. The question isn't who buried Juanita alive. It's why we assumed they were cruel when the evidence suggests they were ritualists with a profound understanding of human physiology. They weren't forgetting ventilation. They were using it. The sealed tomb, the altitude, the cold, the drink before the journey, it was all one system, one ceremony, designed to guide consciousness from life into something else, somewhere else, in a way that their culture understood as sacred transfer, not death. Our word for what happened to her is sacrifice. Their word was probably something like apotheosis, becoming divine, and that changes what we're looking at. Every mummy found on a mountaintop, sealed in stone, preserved forever in ice, they're not victims, they're ambassadors. They're people chosen to stand at the edge of human existence and whisper back to us across centuries what that edge feels like. Juanita did that, she still does. Every time we look at her, every time we study her preserved face, we're reading a message written in biology. Asterisk, we understood something about the human spirit that you're only now trying to learn. We knew how to make the transition gentle. We knew the altitude, we knew the cold, we knew the dark, and we prepared her for it. Asterisk, she's been telling us this for 30 years. We're only just starting to listen.